Hi guys, this is Neetu. In this short lesson, I'm going to be talking about conference call etiquette. So if you're someone who has to attend conference calls or conduct calls in your job, this course might just prove to be very helpful to you because I've listed these basic guidelines and etiquette that should be followed on conference calls. So let's begin. Okay, so attending or conducting a conference call meeting is a very important professional skill. What I've done is I have listed the pre-work. Now, if let's say you're going to be hosting the call, so what is the pre-work that you should take care of? One is the agenda. I think most people who've been working for a long time, they know that an agenda is extremely important whenever you're conducting a meeting. Now, when you're doing it over a conference call, it becomes all the more important because your participants are going to participate from different parts of the world or sometimes different parts of the country. So you should have these, agenda items clearly listed along with time for each topic so that anybody who attends is already aware of why the meeting or the call is actually happening. Another thing is availability of participants. Now I've seen that many a times, there are many people who send requests, meeting requests without really checking whether, people are available or not. So normally if in a professional environment, if you're using a calendar, you can actually go and check your participants' availability within the calendar. There's an option. So if they're already booked for another meeting, you'll be able to check that. Many people don't make that effort, and that is not considered a good thing because most people end up cancelling that meeting then. So it's always a good idea to check for availability using that calendar option, or you can simply just communicate with people and ask them that I'm going to be keeping a meeting at this time. Would you be okay with it? Now, if there are obviously many participants and if it's a bulk meeting, then it kind of, is usually not possible. So in that case, I still say that, send out an email in advance to all those people saying that I'm going to be keeping a meeting sometime next week. Please give me your preferred time. So that way you can come to a one common time which is comfortable for everybody. And then give calling details. Now, obviously, you have to have a bridge information, where everybody will dial in. So you must kind of, prepare for that. Infrastructure. Now, infrastructure is ensure that you book a conference room, because if you're going to be hosting the meeting, your voice and needs to be really clear. So it's a good idea to be at a very quiet place. If you're taking the call from home, then ensure that there's no background noise and everything's in place. And also prepare your introduction in advance. Now, if you are just attending the call, then obviously you might not be asked to introduce yourself every time. But if you're going to be hosting the conference call, and if it's the first time that you're meeting those participants, you should have a very strong introduction. So prepare that as to what you're going to say on the call. And then, so you've done the pre-work, you've sent the agenda, you've sent the meeting request to people, they've accepted it. Now for the call, if you're hosting it, please be on time. If you are going to be late, then other people will simply hear music and they'll keep waiting. It does not give a good impression of the host. Second, ensure that you have one person to capture the minutes of the meeting. Minutes of the meeting are the notes, is the discussion that happens during the meeting. So, as a host, sometimes it gets very difficult to capture that because you're taking care of so many things. So have one person from within the participants, or maybe you can ask somebody else to also log in to that call and have that person capture the discussion. Also keep documents open in advance. If you're going to be discussing a PowerPoint or if you have to discuss certain documents, then keep those open. It looks very bad that, last minute after calling everybody, you're opening those PPTs. Sometimes the PPTs are very heavy and they take very long to open. So there's always this silence, which we call as dead air. And that happens on the meeting and it's not a part of the etiquette. Etiquette says that you should have these things prepared in advance. And believe me, in such a busy world, sometimes you just have half an hour for the meeting. So if you're going to, spend time on all these things, then the main, discussion that needs to happen in the meeting takes a back seat. So let's say you already prepared, you're on time, you have all the documents open. Now what? Now during the call, introduce the participants. It's always a good idea to tell who's on the call because everybody feels then more comfortable talking. Listen very carefully to each person. Calibrate slide numbers and document pages. Now, why I'm saying this is because I've seen many people, when they're presenting a PowerPoint, they would just keep talking about, different slides. Now, if I am logged into a call, I'm not really in front of that person. How will I know which slide he or she is referring to? So it's very important that you tell them that I'm on slide number this, or I'm on page number this, and I'm referring to this particular point. Ensure that the volume is good, because if it's too low, then it's very difficult to understand. Avoid background noise. Avoid fillers and speak slowly. On calls, it becomes all the more important, because people are only listening to your voice and really focusing. So you need to avoid fillers. Extremely important. Wait for participants' responses. Yes, because you can't see the person, you don't know when that person is going to talk. So it has to be taken care of. Etiquette says that if someone's talking, then please, you have to be quiet and listen to that person. And when that person gives a pause or silence, then you can pick up from there. Mute when you're not talking. It's a good idea, because otherwise the background noise is too much. Manage time. Now, let's say you've sent the agenda, and you see that, the discussion is taking very long. It becomes very lengthy for one particular topic. So you make sure that the next topic is slightly shorter, because if you don't manage time and you keep leaving the agenda items, then it does not really reflect good upon you as a meeting facilitator. So you must make sure that if the discussion is going offline, then you tell them that, okay, we'll take this up, I'll put it in the parking lot, or I'll write it as the discussion point, and maybe I'll put it for the next meeting, if that is out of scope. So that's why I've written that interject if the discussion is out of scope. If it is within scope, then of course let people talk, but you kind of summarize in between, so that you're able to come to a consensus. That's why you have that meeting, right? Also smile. It can be heard. Now, there are many of you who tell me that, thank you, I really loved the lesson. It's also because I'm smiling when I'm talking to you. Because if you don't smile, you end up sounding a little boring and very serious. So you have to smile and be pleasant. I'm not saying you have to sound funny, but you have to be pleasant. Avoid dead air. There are times on a conference call when everybody's quiet, and then there's this awkward silence. That should not happen. If you're the meeting facilitator, talk about it. Say something, or move to the next agenda item. Put up a question so that everybody else starts talking. Ensure that all the points on the agenda are covered. That I already told you that if the agenda is not taken care of, then everybody else feels that, okay, now we'll have to have one more meeting for this. So it's a good idea to cover your agenda items. Summarize. Towards the end of the call, summarize whatever everybody has said. Assign task or action items to whoever you need to, and also put in timelines. I always feel that whenever you give someone a task, please give timelines. If you don't assign timelines, that person will not know how quickly the task needs to be completed. So this is the basic etiquette during the call. See, if you notice, it's nothing difficult, but many people forget these minor things. They just go on with the flow. If the participants are talking, they will not interject, they will not say anything. So that should not happen. As a facilitator, it's your responsibility to make sure that the meeting it begins on time, it ends on time, and the entire agenda is covered. Now, what to do after the call? Send the MOM, which is the minutes of the meeting. So immediately you tell the person who's taken notes to give you all the notes of the meetings. Put up the names of the participants who attended. List the decisions and action items. And also follow up. Let's say sometimes if you have not been able to meet all the agenda items, or if it's a weekly meeting, so create this a table that, okay, this week we discussed this, next week we're going to discuss this, and before our next meeting we need to complete these many tasks. So this is very important. Following up and sending the email which has the minutes of the meeting is extremely essential. Even if someone tells you not to send it, you have to send it. It's a part of the professional etiquette. So that is the basics about how to go about taking conference calls. After that, general guidelines, I would say. This is, if you notice, not just for a conference call, but for any presentation. Be confident. Unless you demonstrate confidence in your voice, the people who are listening to you will not be confident unless you show them confidence. Start very strong. At the beginning always has to be strong, because if your beginning is dull and you're nervous or anxious, then people will lose interest. Ask for input from everybody. Now, many people think that as a meeting facilitator, their job is to talk. No, as the meeting facilitator, your job is just to make sure that you get inputs and everything is on track. You should do the least talking. In fact, you should pose a question and you should ask other people to share their opinion on that particular topic, and then you just do the summarizing. That's why you're calling all those people for the meeting. If you have to do all the talking, then you don't need those people, right? You want the group to take a combined decision. So it's really important to let others talk and get their inputs. So that's another skill to have. End the call clearly. Like I said, summarize, end it very clearly, and always stay focused on the agenda. So I always, form this very good agenda wherein I put the topics and I put in time for each topic. I also keep time for introduction because I know that the first 2 to 3 minutes might, go into introducing people. The last 3 minutes might go into summarizing. So those are also things you must take care of. And also when you're deciding the meeting time, don't always keep the meeting for 1 hour or 1.5 hours. That becomes too lengthy because it's such a busy world, especially in the professional environment. Everybody does not have the time for meetings, and sometimes you have these really, management level people on the call. So it's important that you try to keep it nothing more than 45 minutes. I always try 30 minutes, but if not 30, then keep it for 45 minutes. Even 1 hour sometimes I feel becomes too much unless there's a really, really lengthy discussion. So yeah, that's about it. These general guidelines will help you, stay focused on your next conference calls. If you have any specific questions, please put that in the comment section. I'll be happy to answer them and make more and more lessons for you guys. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.